Hey class, this is the video for today's lesson, Monday, November 23rd. We're still in the chapter on linear equations, and today we're going to talk about rate of change. We're going to really specifically look at it in terms of in a linear equations using tables and graphs. Now, this isn't anything that you've really done. This isn't anything new. We're just introducing a new vocabulary word, rate of change. Please pay attention to rate of change. Think about what is it similar to and why do we have that term, rate of change. Okay, so we're going to use tables and we're going to use graphs from our linear equations to determine the rate of change. How is something changing? And our main vocab obviously is rate of change. And we're going to look at filling out tables, and we're going to graph ordered pairs. So let's talk about rate of change. What is rate of change? What does it mean? So let's go ahead and let me give you an example. If I have a set of ordered pairs, let's say I have x and y, and they're related. Let's say my x's are 1, 2, 3, and so on. And the y's, let's say, is -1, 1, and 3. I can't just take my y divided by my x and find out what the proportionality is or what the slope is. I have to see how is it changing. So I'm going to see when my x change. Here I'm going from 1 to 2, so it's going up by 1. How does the y change? And here I'm going from -1 to 3, so that's going up by 2. So here the rate of change is going to be, I'm going up by 2 every time x goes up 1. Is that going to be constant? Is that going to be consistent? If we did this correctly, it should always be the same number. So let's see. If I go from 1 to 3, that's going up by 2. And my y is going from -1 to 3. So that's going -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. Or 3 minus -1 is going to give me the same number. So from -1 to 3 is 4. 3 minus -1 is 4. From 1 to 3 is 2. So 1, 2, 3. Or you can think of it this way, 3 minus 1 is going to give me the 2. Now, these look like different numbers, don't they? But if you remember, anytime we're dealing with change or slope, it is a ratio. And this is called a rate, which is a certain kind of ratio. It determines how one ratio changes into another. It's how one quantity, how one number changes the other number. So in other words, when I plug in an x, how is that going to change my y? So if we look at this first one, it's rise over run. The 2 is the change in y, and 1 is your change in x. That's 2 over 1. And if you look at it, that's the same thing as my change in y here with the blue, which was 4, over the change in 2, which is 2. 4 over 2. These equal each other because you're just multiplying the top and bottom by 2. So these are equivalent fractions. 2 over 1 is the same thing as 4 over 2. Or 2 divided by 1 is 2. 4 divided by 2 is also 2. But we did that by seeing the change in x over the change in y. So that's slightly different than just a proportion. These are non-proportional because we're not starting at 0, 0. Actually, for this one, it looks like if you go back 1, you're going to be starting at 0, -3. Okay, so let me clear all this. So that's what we're talking about today. Basically, rate of change, as you can see, is just the same thing as slope. So another word for rate of change is slope. And remember, slope is rise over run, or your change in y's over your change in x's. So we can know what the rate of change is really easily if we have an equation. We just look at the slope. Y equals 2x minus 3. Here the rate of change is 2. Well, I thought slope was rise over run. All I see is the rise. Do you remember, if you just have a whole number, you just divide it by 1. So that's your change in y's over your change in x's. That shows as x changes by 1, your y is going to change by 2. Now we're going to fill out tables, kind of like we did at the beginning. So let's do it with this graph. And we're going to plug in reasonable numbers. So if I plug in the number, like let's say I plug in 0, then 2 times 0 is 0, and that's going to give me a y of negative 3. Then I plug in another number, let's say 1. 2 times 1 is 2, minus 3, it's going to give me negative 1. Plug in 2. 2 times 2 is 4, minus 1 is 1. Positive. Say I want to skip a few. Say I put in 5. Well, 2 times 5 is 10, and then minus 3, that's going to equal 7. So that'd be 5, 7. Now if I look at a graph, these are my ordered pairs. 0, 3 is an x and y pair that I can graph. Sorry, 0, negative 3. Also, I could graph 1, negative 1 as an ordered pair. So that's kind of what we're doing today. Let's go ahead and look at an example. So if you're looking here on page, what is that? Is that 99 or yeah, page 99? They gave us this equation, y equals 8x plus 12, and this represents, the y represents the total cost. So down here I can put total cost. Or you can put it at the top, doesn't really matter. And then on the top, what does that x represent? Well, that x represents, it's a renewal rate, is $8 every year. So maybe that's to a library, or, oh, it's to a magazine. Yeah, it's pretty cheap. So x represents the number of years. And I'm just going to really make it distinctive that x is years and y is total cost, or the money. Okay, total amount you've had to pay. So now we're going to plug in our numbers. Okay, so does it make sense to have negative years? No. So we're not going to do negatives. But what we can do is we can start off with 0. So before the first year is over, his initial subscription is going to cost $12. That's what it cost when he first started, before a year was over. And then once a year was finished, he had to pay $8 more. So the way we can do that is 8 times 1 plus 12. And that's going to give us 8 plus 12, which is 20. Okay. Well, after 2 years, that's going to be 16. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 12 gives you 28. Notice it hops up by 8 each time. Well, let's say I just want to see what it's going to cost after 10 years. Or, yeah, let's do 10 years. After 10 years, that's 8 times 10, which is 80, plus that initial subscription. That'd be great if it was only $10 the rest of the time. That gives you 92. That's kind of off the graph. So instead I'm going to put 5 here, and that's going to be 52. Okay. All right. So you're just going to graph that here. Your x and y is now your ordered pair. Now make sure that whatever your x is, whatever you're plugging in, you're going back and forth, and the other number is going up and down. So if I can move my head out of the way, that first one is going to be graphed right here, 0, 12. Notice each hashtag is 4. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. And then after 1 year, it's going to be up here at 20. After 2 years, it's going to be up here at 28, and so on and so forth. Now that we have our points, we can connect them and draw the line. That's it. Then you got to explain why this is not proportional. Well, it's because it doesn't start at 0, 0. Because I can't just take this 28 and divide it by 2 and get my slope, get my rate of change. I can't just take any of these ordered pairs because we have that plus 12. But explain it in your own words. All right, hope that helps. See you guys later. Bye.